For many kids, this is where it all starts. Real grassroots tennis, but a competition that's gone on to produce the likes of Rachel McQuillan.
She played in a devastating team we had for state team back in the 1980s, which contained Todd Woodbridge, Jason Stoltenberg, Jamie Morgan, so a very good group of players went through.
It no doubt serves to inspire these hopefuls as they attempt to crack the dizzy heights of what is a very selective sport. Even at this carnival, only a handful will advance.
From those 130 kids, we select a state team of 14 to compete against the other states.
And the Hunter girls were giving themselves every chance as they attempted to overcome the highly rated North Coast. In the boys' doubles, Sydney North was well on track to defending its title, going into this afternoon's match against the Northwest undefeated. The first cut will be made tomorrow before the semi-finals. Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
The Maitland Bureau has become the centrepiece of Premier Bob Carr's relocation of state public servants to the Hunter. Today, as workers continued to wade through an Easter holiday-induced spike in traffic fines, their parliamentary masters were getting a first-hand look at how the operation works. It was part of the Public Accounts Committee's inquiry into teething problems resulting from the move out of Sydney that has cost taxpayers tens of millions of dollars because of slow processing of fines. Workers have been reassured they did their best.
The committee went through that bureau and were very impressed with the dedication and the professionalism of the staff. It's so great to see.
During a public hearing at Maitland Town Hall, Office of State Revenue Director Brian Robertson conceded the government's decision to take the bureau off police hands last year came in the nick of time. He said staff were close to breaking point and would have been overwhelmed if changes hadn't been implemented. The Carr government originally budgeted for 160 employees to work at the Maitland Bureau. However, the inquiry was today told that up to 310 have been needed to clear the backlog of work and that staffing levels will now be kept at 270. The committee's draft report and findings due next month are expected to focus on problems with the Bureau building, computer systems and staffing issues. Gary Blair, NBN News.
Queensland coach Michael Hagan knows only too well what Blues captain and Knights hooker Danny Badiris is capable of. One of his star pupils, Hagan last year bestowed the Test rake with his own Players Award. Now they find themselves on opposite sides of the border in a rugby league series which tests every loyalty.
I'll be doing the best job I can for our state, and I'm sure Danny will be doing the same for his state. And I think he's been doing a great job for us all year, and I'm sure he'll be one of their key players.
And it's all business for the coach and his rival captain, who was bunkered down at Origin training this afternoon. There's no friendly banter between the two, not even a phone call.
I did text him to congratulate him on being captain and wish him well for the game, but I think that's probably about where it'll end.
For the Maroons coach, if Badiris does lead the Blues to an Origin win, it will be somewhat of a bittersweet experience.
Yeah, it's probably not one that we thought about 6 months ago, but I mean, Danny's been in great form for our club, and I'm not surprised that he's been given the captaincy, and I think he'll do a wonderful job for New South Wales.
Hopefully for Queensland supporters, not too well. Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
The minister who has the job of spending the money the Treasurer raises from taxes met with business leaders in Newcastle to explain the details of last week's federal budget. His host, Paterson MP Bob Baldwin, told the Finance Minister the main concern from his marginal electorate was that low-income earners feel they've been forgotten. Senator Minchin disagrees.
Well, we've done a lot for low-income earners in previous budgets. The whole new tax system was geared towards helping low-income earners.
And the Finance Minister gave the business community a message he wants them to spread among workers. The Commonwealth benefits depend on a strong economy.
The only way we can pay for, the social welfare and the pensions and things like that is with a strong economy, generating the tax revenue that enables us to meet all those expenditures.
And a big boost for supporters of the F3 extension from Seahampton to Branxton. They can now rely on support from the member for Paterson after the budget secured road funding commitments for his electorate.
That being Buckets Way, Weekly's Drive and the duplication of the Pacific Highway. I will now start to campaign, as I've been doing a little bit of, but start to campaign for the F3 extension.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
For the Red Bellies powerboat team of driver Colin Craven and his Nelson Bay co-driver Bruce Sanders, the real race is on tonight.
We have to build 2 gearboxes, we have to put new shafts in. Our computers are on a plane from the United States, they won't make it, so effectively our engines are about 100 horsepower down.
Some sign writing should ensure little sleep, but they can hardly wait to test out their newly acquired 28-foot-long twin-hull craft that will contest Class 2. They've grown used to challenges. After winning 4 national titles in smaller categories, they've enjoyed nothing but trouble since joining Class 2. A new boat may change all that.
We can still run about 85 miles an hour, which is fairly fast on water, so I suppose Colin and I will be looking for some rough water. And if rough water comes in, then we come right back into play.
At speeds in excess of 240 kilometres an hour for the top-of-the-range Class 1 boats, that can mean serious airtime. Acme Racing is the defending national champion in the top class, but everyone has been trying to catch the $1 million Maritimo team boat this season. A World Championship challenger, the 48-foot monster is powered by twin V12 Lamborghini engines and will start as favourite for the offshore event that begins in Newcastle Harbour on Sunday. Jim Callanan, NBN News.
We think we can get a lot more out of it, so we'll just push hard for the rest of the season.
There's no doubting the impressive nature of these craft, and a rolling start into Newcastle Harbour wasn't a bad way to start round 4 of the Australian Offshore Series. Crowds getting a real feel for them. But it was once they were outside the heads that drivers really opened up. Powered by twin V12 Lamborghini engines, Maritimo was on match-winning pace. National champions Acme Racing was putting up a valiant fight, but it all came to an end on lap 6 when Revitec rolled. Officials had no hesitation in red flagging the event as rescue craft and fellow competitors went to their aid. Andrew Rudd was unhurt, while his co-driver Jason Boyd returned with a suspected broken wrist, but no regrets.
You can take it either way, can't you? You know, let it bother you or just get back on the horse. No problems with horses.
He does with his craft, which will take plenty of work. In front at the time of the crash, Maritimo was awarded the win. Meanwhile, local boat Red Bellies was 4th in its class. It's a familiar story most years at this stage of the season for the Knights, with origin duties taking 3 players and the coach away for most of the week. That doesn't mean those remaining get any rest. With Ben Kennedy, Robbie O'Davis and Mark Hughes all injured, and with Tamana Tahu's availability unknown, it's left plenty of selection questions. One thing is for sure, Matt Parsons will return to the starting side with Josh Perry to miss the match through suspension. Parsons will join Adam Woolnough in the front row, the same player who's kept him on the bench for much of the season.
They've done such a good job for us all year that Hagues will sort of look after them a little bit too down the track. So I've just got to play well while I get a start.
Another whose place in the squad will play an important role over the origin period is that of utility Michael Ennis. Aged just 20, he'll be sure to play plenty of minutes in the next few weeks to help cover for Danny Badiris.
At the start of the year, Hague sort of was just told me just to keep chipping away and that I'll get me time, and it's sort of a bit like an apprenticeship, I suppose.
Like Parsons, he's coming off contract and has been offered a 2-year deal, but is also being hunted elsewhere.
There's a few things going around, but as I said, I'm trying not to worry about that, and I'm just trying to keep my head around hopefully staying in first grade.
The team to play the Storm will be announced tomorrow.
This red ash native Australian tree, planted today, is known as a hardy plant that adapts to various climates and weather conditions. Thanks to the efforts of employees and volunteers at the Wetlands Centre, the tree is fortunate to be nestled among other native plants and wildlife rather than domestic waste.
When you consider that only 18 years ago this site was actually earmarked to become a dump site, and now we look around and we have a haven on the doorstep for the Newcastle community to enjoy.
The centre was established in 1985, and since then over 190,000 volunteer hours have contributed to the regeneration of the natural habitat. The area is an integral part of the local ecology and is now listed as a wetland of international significance.
We have a number of endangered and threatened species here on our site. It's crucial that we provide habitat for those species so that they do survive.
All 40,000 trees have been donated to the Shortland site by the Australian Plant Society and have an estimated value of around $320,000. This is Newcastle's first sport aerobic training studio, and inside, 15 of the Hunter's fittest athletes are running through routines that now have them ranked among the world's best. 2 teams of 7, the cadet step aerobic team and the junior step aerobic team, were the highest ranked Australians in their group, both earning bronze medals. This achievement made even more significant by the fact that some team members have been in the sport less than a year. And while this routine by 14-year-old Alira Bull didn't earn her a medal, the youngest competitor in the junior individual women's group was content with her 4th placing and ecstatic with her reviews.
Most of the judges said that I have a really big future in the sport and I can go a long way with it, which I was really happy with.
And under the watchful eye of coach Vivienne Lattimore, the Australian junior champion is hoping to make it to Belgium next year to improve her world ranking.
That's my goal. I'd love to, and I want to come back with a gold medal.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
After nearly 2 decades of talk, the F3 is finally to take a left turn near Mount Sugarloaf and head into the Hunter Valley. Transport Minister John Anderson confirming the $253 million upgrade to follow what's known as the Curry Curry Corridor during a whistle-stop visit to Beresfield.
We believe that if the New South Wales State Government moves promptly, we can be ready to begin by around the middle of next year.
When questioned on whether it would be a single or dual carriageway, the acting PM says that's still under negotiation.
You know, we'll have to stage it and do the logical stages first, and that's what matters.
Canberra's commitment to the F3 extension has been warmly welcomed. Hunter MP Joel Fitzgibbon has described it as better a decade late than never, while Cessnock Mayor John Clarence has called for an immediate start to work so trucks can be taken off local roads. Auslink funds also go to the Weeklies Drive Beresfield interchange, F3 and Pacific Highway upgrades, the Holcomb Hill Aberdeen safety improvements and New England Highway bypass of Muswellbrook. Rail spending includes the $152 million Hunter Valley improvements and $109 million to duplicate the Dungog-Gloucester line. Gary Blair, NBN News.
Robbie O was all smiles when leaving physio this afternoon, given the all clear to help get Newcastle back on track when they meet the North Queensland Cowboys this weekend. The Knights fullback has been out for 4 weeks after tearing a hamstring at training.
I trained 100% all last week and the body's just great, ready to fire. And after the last 2 weeks, I think I might be needed in there somewhere, I hope.
Having torn a calf muscle in the first match of the season, O'Davis has only appeared in 5 games this year. Although keen to quickly find form, the Queenslander is not entertaining the thought of winning a call-up for the 3rd State of Origin match. In contract negotiation news, Ben Kennedy travelled to Sydney today to meet with rival NRL clubs. The Australian back rower has been given until Thursday to make a decision on his future with the Newcastle club. Also off contract is Kirk Gidley, whose value has significantly risen this year. The utility back started talks with the Knights today. Where he'll play in 2005 is expected to be known later this week. Todd Nardi, NBN News.
Ever wanted a job where your work environment is so enjoyable that those around you are more than likely the happiest they'll be in their entire lives? Sounds good? Well, why not take the plunge and become a marriage celebrant? These 17 trainee marriage celebrants were being put through the ultimate test today, writing their own ceremonies and holding mock weddings, complete with bride and groom.
I have great pleasure to declare you to be husband and wife. Stephen, you may kiss your bride.
And you may recognise a face or two. Newcastle Police identity Tony Tamplin is among the class.
In my normal day job, you deal with a lot of negative emotions, so it's nice to deal with people when they're really happy, etc.
Others say they're doing it because the celebrant at their own wedding was so disappointing. Course tutor Ron McSporran was also a policeman for 40 years, but made the unlikely switch to civil celebrant 9 years ago. He hopes the course will create more professionalism in the celebrant industry. But once the I-do's are over, unfortunately nearly half of all marriages end in divorce.
And I think again that's the role of the civil celebrant to some extent, to try to instill and impart to people the importance of marriage and what it is, how it plays an important part in today's Australian society.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
It was always going to be a personal decision, and on his own this morning, Andrew Johns made up his mind.
I had the chance to go across and I decided to stay in league, so you know, I'll have no regrets whatsoever. It's like a big bear's off my back. It's been the most stressful week I've had.
There's no doubting what the news means to the Newcastle Knights. On the field, he marshals the troops, while his impact off it, luring sponsors, is just as important.
He brings so much to the club.
Much like he's left opposition sides over the years, the will he or won't he debate even had his own teammates second-guessing their star player's next move, and they welcomed his decision with open arms.
Yeah, I was over the moon. I think I was probably more happy than he is about it.
We're all such great mates off the field too, and we didn't want to lose a mate.
He was the one that rang us this morning. That's the sort of bloke he is. He's always going to put the players first, and then just as long as he's happy, everyone's happy.
You certainly got no argument in his hometown of Cessnock.
Well, I think it's a great decision. Cessnock produces the best rugby league players in the world.
Best thing ever. I think it's great for him. Yeah, his family and everything's still here.
Good on you, Joey.
Out for the season, just what immediate impact his decision has on the club could be seen this weekend.
Well, he's not going to play on Sunday, but certainly I think emotionally it will lift the team and the club, and I think our supporters.
It closes another chapter of yet another tough contract negotiation period for the club, but it's not over yet. Next on the list is Tamana Tahu, but you sense one big sigh of relief. Their number one priority is staying. Jim Callanan, NBN News.
With the main gate padlocked, tradesmen were the only ones working at Belmont High today. An inspection by engineers of the fire-damaged block brought Term 2 for some of the remaining senior students to an end a week ahead of schedule.
The structural integrity isn't what they thought it was on the previous inspection, and the decision was taken to close the school. The Minister's taken that decision, and we're out for the rest of the term.
While only days remain for this term, alternative accommodation has been found at Belmont TAFE so Year 12 pupils can keep their HSC studies on track.
We've got computer rooms, we've got access to their libraries, we've got teaching spaces. So Year 12 will be coming back to school tomorrow.
And final touches are being made to alternative accommodation on the sports oval at Belmont High. 15 demountable classrooms now replace the 50-year-old block lost in the fire. While many of the 1,100 students will have spent a month out of school when classes finally resume next month, they're already being advised to expect a busy remainder of the year.
From day one, our intention is to get things back to as normal as possible.
Meanwhile, Lake Macquarie detectives say their investigation continues into the June 19th destruction. Gary Blair, NBN News.
Newcastle was always going to be up against it in trying to keep Tamana Tahu, but a last-ditch effort today wasn't enough to stop him heading south after this season.
We got notified this afternoon that Tamana had accepted Parramatta's offer.
The Knights had tabled an offer for Tahu, but the 24-year-old chose to put himself on the open market. Even until the final hours, Newcastle was still vying for his signature, upping the initial amount.
And we upgraded that offer to what we believe could only be described as a substantial offer. It obviously didn't go anywhere near matching the Parramatta offer, but we certainly went as far as we could go.
With Tahu and Ben Kennedy now leaving the club, the Knights have room to move under the salary cap, the responsibility of filling the roster now resting with coach Michael Hagan.
He will no doubt over the weekend assess where he feels our remaining cap money would be best spent.
And it's been reported that former Newcastle Knight Sean Rudder is set to leave English Super League club Castleford to join his junior club Singleton.
These competitors wasted no time talking themselves up.
Gonna run today? Gonna run like mad?
Dog sled races are nothing new. But in this case, scooters, rigs and gigs make do in what is a winter-only sport.
15 degrees is a cut-off, but we also watch the humidity because that affects the dogs as well.
Part of a national series of races, it's not strictly reserved for huskies. The competition open to, quite literally, any man and his dog.
German short-haired pointers run. There's even border collies that run. There's all different types of dog. If your dog wants to run and it has the attitude to run, you don't stop it, you do it.
Depending on the number of dogs entered, each team is required to run a course between 2 and 7.5 kilometres.
The trail was really good. Heaps of little turns, very interesting.
It's a walk in the park for these dogs. For the owners, though, it's much more.
It is a lifestyle and it's a commitment to those dogs, but you enjoy what you're doing with them, and they enjoy it a lot, so that's what we do.
Adam McKilrick, NBN News.
When we think of killer diseases, we think of cancer, but experts say that may soon change.
If the rising incidence of diabetes continues, by 2030 it's estimated that diabetes will be the biggest health problem.
Around 60,000 Hunter people suffer from diabetes. Alarmingly, the number of people in the region with type 1 diabetes, the type common in children, is the highest in the nation.
In the last 10 years, our clinic's gone from 80 or 90 patients to over 320, so that's nearly a quadrupling of the number of children.
9-year-old Lauren Allen was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes 2 years ago. With no history of the disease in the family, the news came as a surprise to Lauren's mother, Julie.
I got a real shock and went through questions like, well, how long will this be for? And, probably a course of antibiotics and it would be fixed. I really didn't know much about it at all.
An active Year 4 student, Lauren has learned to live with the disease.
I have to give myself needles and prick my finger.
But it's random cases like hers that are baffling researchers. And while the Hunter has the highest incidence of diabetes in Australia, we're also at the forefront of research, partaking in international trials and leading studies of our own. Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
It was a little like tag team for coaching staff at the Knights today. After 4 days north of the border, Michael Hagan returned for his club's final training session as assistant coach. Craig Miller left to join the state under-19s camp. It's a preparation catered for in the build-up to a game that offers plenty.
St George, Newcastle games always seem to have a reasonable edge to them, and there's not much between them normally, so I would think that tomorrow night we could expect more of the same.
For Clint Newton, it's his first run-on start since serving a 12-week suspension for this hit on Ashton Sims. The two will face off again tomorrow night.
It was an accident, I've said that. That was just one of those things. Tomorrow night I certainly won't be gun shy, and I'm sure they won't be either.
Newton can expect plenty of attention, but so will his teammates in a pack that's sure to be tested by one of the form back rows in the competition.
One of those challenges up front that we're more than welcome to accommodate for the St George pack.
As the league team trained, it was the region's other national football code that was checking things out at Energy Australia Stadium. After some rumblings, Newcastle Jets management met with the ISC Trust and Knights officials as they look towards signing a deal to play their A-League home games there this season. Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Laurie St Hill is living proof that this new cancer treatment works wonders. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2003 and within months his health was on a rapid decline. But since taking part in the trial by the University of Newcastle and the Mater Hospital, things are looking up.
I think it's been very successful. There's no sign now of the cancer, and there's no doubt whatever that if it hadn't been treated, I probably wouldn't be talking to you now.
Principal researcher Jim Denham, who is today presenting his findings in Darwin at a conference, has found that just 3 months of the new treatment can help stop the cancer in its tracks.
And what we found is that a short course of hormone treatment using a drug called goserelin plus radiotherapy not only cuts down the chance of the cancer from coming back in the prostate, but more importantly stops it from spreading around the body.
In fact, it can cut the chances of cancer returning in the prostate by 45%, and 6 months of hormone therapy reduced the chances of cancer returning by over a half. Great news for sufferers. Prostate cancer is the second biggest cause of cancer-related deaths in Australia for men, behind skin cancer.
I think prostate cancer has been very much underrated as to the danger, and it's only in very recent times that they've realised that it's such a deadly killer.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
It's a prime piece of real estate with views that are hard to put a price on. Port Stephens Council says it's not opposed to the redevelopment of the old Shoal Bay Motel, but rather the scale of a project that's been approved by the Department of Infrastructure, Planning and Natural Resources. The 3-storey development includes 13 2- and 3-bedroom apartments, 2 luxury penthouses, ground floor retail and commercial and lap pools. Council claims the development exceeds its 8-metre height restriction on street front properties by around 5 metres.
It breaches the development control plan that Council has been managing for the Shoal Bay waterfront for nearly 30 years now.
While other developments in the area exceed the limit, Council claims they were approved before the control plan was devised. Council says it fears a precedent will be set if the development goes ahead, making it virtually impossible to oppose future developments of a similar scale. It could take 6 months before Council hears whether an application to appeal the decision in the Land and Environment Court is successful. Colleen West, NBN News.
The inclusion of Steve Simpson in the New South Wales team will be a masterstroke. His honesty and work ethic has been rewarded after a tough start of the season with the Knights, and I was lucky enough to catch up with him in Origin camp earlier this week.
Mate, in a losing team, your form has been fantastic, your fitness, of course, injuries last year, but do you feel now you're back on top of your game and playing some of your best footy?
Yeah, I think so. Like the first few weeks, it sort of took a little bit of time to find my feet and get a bit of match fitness and a bit of confidence in that back. Yeah. And yeah, I feel like I found that, and I'm starting to play like the way I want to play, so it's great.
Mate, and for the Knights' predicament, having yourself and of course Danny Badiris being the captain, and also Michael Hagan, the coach, for him to be able to get away and mix with the game's elite should be and could be good for the Knights.
Yeah, I think so. Like we're up there, we're sticking together pretty tight, and hopefully things will start to change. We'll get a bit of luck come our way, and I think it's great to sort of get in these camps to freshen us up, and hopefully we can take that enthusiasm back with us.
And while the Knights will be without Danny Badiris and Steve Simpson on the weekend, they face a Dragons outfit that'll be missing up to 7 players due to Origin and also injury worry. So it'll give the Knights a real chance to win at home. In tonight's game, traditional rivals, the Eels versus the Seagulls. I'm going to go with Manly in that match. On Saturday, I'm going for the Storm, hoping for an upset, of course, with the Knights. The Warriors to win also. Only 2 games on Sunday. I'm going for the Raiders and the Sharks. Good luck with your tips. See you all next week.
Come mid-September, more than 2,000 athletes, half of those from overseas, will be in Newcastle for the World Duathlon, and the state government wants everything to look its best. Not originally planning to pledge quite so much, Minister for Sport, Recreation and Tourism Sandra Norrie today handed over $90,000. With an expected economic impact to the region of more than $2.3 million thanks to the 5-day event, it's the longer-term benefits of being exposed to foreign competitors and media that's hard to calculate. It's the Australian Powerboat Series that returns to Newcastle Harbour this weekend. The massive machines will be tested tomorrow before racing on Sunday, which will see drivers tackle a circuit that stretches from the harbour to Merewether Beach. With Newcastle playing Central Coast in the Country Rugby League Championships tomorrow, Cessnock will be missing 2 players and Maitland 1 in their comp game tomorrow. Other rep players will be backing up for clubs on Sunday. After a rain-affected round 6, Newcastle and Hunter Rugby Union officials will be hoping for better conditions tomorrow. While in the NBN Soccer League, Sunday's clash at Edgeworth looks to be the pick of the weekend games. The calm before the storm, but some early potshots were still taken this morning. Old teammates Liz Ellis and Jane Altschwager are tonight the best of enemies.
A bit of a handshake and a wink and step on the toes, and then it's all game on from there on. I came up recently for Jane's housewarming and stuck it up the other Jagers girls and sat there and stirred the pot a bit. I was the only Swift there and they let me go, so hopefully I'm going to make them regret that tonight.
With the confidence of 2 away wins and more than 4,000 fans backing their every play tonight, the Jagers hope the shoe will be on the other foot.
We can't let them get a roll on and give them one of our centres really easily, so we've really got to just keep our errors to a minimum.
That's easier said than done. Boasting 6 Australian players in their starting 7, the Swifts are strong across the court, but the one that got away from them may prove to be a real thorn in the side tonight.
Speak to them about what things that players certainly like and dislike, and hopefully that will help them out on court, that we'll niggle them enough that they'll drop a ball here and there, and that's enough for a turnaround and a couple of goals our way.
And with Australian selectors to be watching, the Hunter skipper would love them to be hers.
They're a social bunch in Scone and they love anything to do with thoroughbreds. Put the two together and plenty of people will turn up. The crowd for the Scone Cup was as sensational as the weather. But would you expect anything else? This is the horse capital of Australia. While it's worth around $500,000 on the track, there was plenty of money exchanging hands and other body parts with the bookies. When it was time to get cracking for fashions on the field, all the fancy fillies and a few studs were on show.
Oh yeah, feeling pretty sharp, but it's a good day to come out and get fully dressed up. It doesn't happen very often in Scones.
But the stylers took a back seat when the 2-year-olds hit the track for the $200,000 Inglis Challenge. Genuinely returning a hefty 1940 for the win, but you couldn't put a price on this kind of emotion.
Yeah, like when you showed the ability, we're just getting it out of it, like just a great ride by Matty. So.
Not as rich in prize money, but traditionally the one to win the 1600-metre Scone Cup. The Newcastle-based combination of Dale Spriggs and Impaler doing it again, and it wasn't a bad price either. Jessica Phillis, NBN News.